There was another character theme for the series released last week, the theme for Helena and Victoria. It is described as one of the themes for Helena Walker, a 21st century paleontologist who was awakened on the Ark, connecting to the theme for Victoria Walker, Helena's wife in her past life. So it's both Helena's and Victoria's theme combined. It is both beautiful, I love the piano, but also sad, knowing what will most likely happen in the show. This is a good point to mention that I will be discussing spoilers for Ark's story. Helena and Victoria's relationship will most likely be shown through flashbacks. There was an image of one of these that was released earlier last year. Victoria's character was not in the notes. She is a new character from the series. There's also a new image along with the soundtrack. I'd assume it is from the show, since it is not the same format as the other posters. I really want a scene of them watching the sunrise together because it would connect to the themes and symbolism already present in the notes. Considering the lighting in the image, that could be what this scene is. I'd also like to talk about how the flashbacks could work in the show. This is all speculation, of course, but in the notes there would be times when characters would think about their past lives throughout. There are many stories about dinosaur islands, and I like them, and I find them interesting. At one point, I do want to talk about various tropes and common themes in these stories, including how Ark uses these. However, I would like to wait until the show releases, so I can use the show notes and the game as examples. For now, I would just like to talk about how flashbacks could be used in the show, using some of these stories as examples. One way is at the beginning of the show is just one long flashback. In a typical Dinosaur Island story, it shows the main character's life before arrival on the island. A well-known example of something similar to this would be the Jurassic Park movie. It might even be the most fitting considering Helena is a paleontologist in the show. The only difference in this one is that they are intending to go to the island. Some of the characters just don't know it has dinosaurs. Most of these types of stories involve the characters accidentally ending up there, such as in a plane or boat crash. This would not be the case in Ark, considering the island is a space station in Helena's future. So in this case, it would be the flashback in the beginning, the tragedy mentioned in the description, and then Helena's awakening on the island. Another example, and what I think would be the most likely one, is that the flashbacks would be spread throughout the story, each one showing different moments of Helena's past and her relationship with Victoria as the story progresses. More about the island is revealed and Helena grows and develops. Or even a combination of the two, with the show beginning by showing Helena's past but also having more moments scattered throughout the show. This format would work better for showing moments in the lives of other characters too. Each one would reveal more about who they were in the past, which will connect to their development in the future and the struggles they face on the island. I'm not an expert in literary analysis or literature, but I enjoy stories and thinking about the ones I enjoy and why I like them so much. And I love flashbacks as a storytelling tool and how they can reveal more of a character's personality and make their development more meaningful. So I think about this a lot. Just one long one at the beginning might not be good enough to tell the story in this case. A large part of Helena's character is her trying to figure out who she is. She is unsure if she is a clone of a real person or just has entirely fake memories. In Aberration, she says, "If a machine created me to behave a certain way, am I expressing myself or the will of the machine?" While her actions in the past may be fake, what she chooses to do in the present and in her life on the Arks is her choice. And an important part of her journey in the series seems to be dealing with the loss of her wife and finding a place on the island. So flashbacks scattered throughout the story would make the most sense for this, I think. An example of this that I can think of is a show that I never finished called Lost. I remember the beginning episodes were about different characters showing the lives of the characters before they arrived on the island, therefore giving them more depth than they originally had at the beginning. As the story progressed, you'd get to learn more about these characters and their lives. While at the beginning, many of their lives were mysteries. You could also see how they developed while on the island, and while this wasn't a dinosaur island, the premise is still similar. And I was reminded a lot of Ark, many people with completely different stories and lives ending up on the same mysterious island, even though they might not have ever met otherwise. The main difference being that Ark's characters are also from different time periods. While I don't think the one episode per character format would work with the Ark show, since it is shorter, something similar could. Another difference between the series and the notes is that it begins when Helena first awakens on the island. At least that is what is implied by the description and scenes that have been shown. The image of her in the dodo as well. The notes, however, explicitly state that she has been on the island for a while. She says, "I've lost count of how many sunrises I've seen since I arrived on this island. Hundreds, I'd imagine." She's been studying many of the creatures, is already friends with Rockwell, and I'd assume they've known each other for a while. And she already has her Argentavis. And while the dossiers she's written include some things that probably happened before the notes, none ever show how she arrived on the island. And while at first I was unsure if I liked this difference, now I think it makes sense. Most who read the notes are already familiar with the game. They automatically know how Helena arrived on the island because their characters have already experienced it. They've experienced waking up on the beaches of the island for the first time. A note of Helena waking up on the island, exploring and seeing the animals for the first time, is not necessary, because that is what the first moments of the game are. Players will be able to read the notes with an understanding of what it's like to experience the world for the first time because they've already done it. But those who haven't played the game may watch the show, and so it's been written with the understanding that people who have no prior experience with the world of Ark will watch it. And I think that is a good thing. It is an important part of making an adaptation. It should be enjoyed by fans of the original, but also those with no prior knowledge of the original. So by starting the series with Helena's awakening on the island, the audience can discover the world with her, and I think that is the perfect way to introduce the setting to those who are unfamiliar with it. Another difference between the series and the notes that I've probably already mentioned is Helena and Victoria's relationship. And I've probably said this before, but I think this is a good thing for her character. It can be a good way to show even more of what her character is like. She needs ways to develop in the parts of the story that were not shown in the notes. It would be less interesting if it were just exploration of the island, and there weren't any conflicts related to personal struggles in parts of the story not included in the notes. This would give her something from her past life to miss, and a reason for her to want to return home in the beginning of the story, as other characters had. I'm very excited to see their relationship in the story. It could be interesting to see how her character becomes the one seen in the notes. Where she is able to feel at home on the island and even sees it as a paradise where she can study the creatures. This was a lot more of my rambling than I expected, but I really did not want to make a video that was just character has a theme now. And I was hoping that they would continue releasing one theme each week, but that doesn't seem like it's the case, so I couldn't talk about multiple themes at once.